burn a half of one. And
Good morning.
there's Cameron.
Yeah,
Good
good
morning. We got Steve and James so far. Good morning, gentlemen. Good to see you.
Good morning, as always. Yes, yes.
Which is interesting because it says there's only one viewer. It lies. It lies. Speaking of lies, today we're talking about Facebook. See what I did there?
I do see what you did there.
So why are we talking about Facebook this morning?
Because they've gone corrupt and evil, and I mean, this is news that shocks no one.
Well, there's a piece of the news that is pretty interesting, but I want to show you something first. Factcheck.org. This is one of the big organizations that Facebook uses for fact checking. We are
liberals use for fact checking.
Yes, that's what I said, isn't it?
Yeah, that is what you said. Yes.
Our mission. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit consumer advocate for voters that aims to reduce the level of deception and confusion in U.S. politics. Consumer advocate for voters.
Right.
Okay. This reminds me a lot of the economic misunderstanding that exists among people who believe that we have a serious racism problem or a serious bigotry of any kind problem in this country. Like yesterday we talked about race hoaxes and the like vis-a-vis the Juicy Smollett case. The reason there are so many hoaxes like Mattress Girl, Juicy Smollett, Bubba What's His Face. the reason there are so many of those hoaxes is what we do have in this country, thanks to the violent left, is we have a high demand for bigotry and a very low supply. When you have a high demand for a product, a supplier will manufacture supply to meet that demand, because feeding a demand with a supply equals profit. You can profit, you can create a market by generating supply to meet a demand. The demand is so high that people like Juicy Smollett and Mattress Girl and the like are attempting to provide a supply to that demand so they can profit by selling that supply. This isn't complicated. So now you have these people who think of voters who produce something, namely a vote, as the consumer, right? Remember, Facebook, Twitter, etc., they're free to use.
Yeah, which means you're the product.
Which makes you the product.
Yeah.
They're selling your information, and that is the product. The demand that they're meeting is the demand of advertisers to make sales, right? So, if I could pay you $100, or if you could pay me $100 today to guarantee you that I would put you in front of a customer that will buy your product at $1,000 profit,
I'd go ahead and pay you $1,000.
would you do that every day?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd go ahead and pay you $1,000.
Exactly. And that's what these companies do, right? So, factcheck.org has the supply-demand relationship backwards on purpose. We monitor the factual accuracy of what is said by major U.S. political players in the form of TV ads, debates, speeches, interviews, and news releases. Our goal is to apply the best practices of both journalism and scholarship and to increase public knowledge and understanding. It is a project of the Annenberg Public Policy Center of the University of Pennsylvania. It was established by publisher and philanthropist Walter Annenberg to create a community of scholars within the University of Pennsylvania that would address public policy issues at the local, state, and federal levels. Okay, so that's factcheck.org is just one of many organizations, but it is one of the larger ones that is used by Facebook for fact checking, and we'll be talking about a couple of lawsuits today, primarily John Stossel's, but I'd like to give a little bit of time to not any of the particular details other than the specific claim made in Candace Owens' lawsuit. But let's just take a quick peek at factcheck.org being rated by all sides. So all sides purports to be, here, we'll go to their about and look at their mission. Strengthens our democratic society with balanced news, diverse perspectives, and real conversation. We expose people to information and ideas from all sides of the political spectrum so they can better understand the world and each other. Our balanced news coverage, media bias rating, civil dialogue opportunities, and technology platform are available for everyone and can be integrated by schools, nonprofits, media companies, and more. So let's break down what it means to look at something like All Sides real quick before we look into what they have to say about factcheck.org. Let's pretend for a moment that we know beyond the shadow of a doubt that All Sides is an absolutely unbiased organization.
Okay.
I have my doubts.
Okay.
But let's pretend that they're absolutely unbiased. That puts them to the left. Or more correctly, that puts all of their ratings. You need to consider all of their ratings as being to the left of what they rate. Because if factcheck.org is a conservative unit, if they happen to be conservatively biased, and they say that something is left biased, then that means that, objectively, the bias of the rated entity must be to the left of the right biased organization. Yes?
Okay.
If, however, they are left biased and they rate something as being left biased, then that means that the only certainty we can come away with is that the organization they are rating is to the left of factcheck.org. So every rating they have needs to be assumed to rate to its left. The same cannot be said going to the right because of our political climate. That option just doesn't exist. Right? The furthest right you can go in media, in mainstream media, is Fox News. In mainstream media.
Okay.
Right? And Fox News is to your left. If Fox News is not to your left, you probably voted for the current oil price.
Well, I don't know. Fox News shifted a little further to the right when Chris Wallace left.
Oh, yeah. Chris Wallace did not leave Fox News. Chris Wallace completed his undercover assignment and returned to CNN.
Yeah.
That's like saying the undercover cop stopped being a drug dealer. No, he just finished his assignment. So, we can look at something like All Sides, and they're going to rate factcheck.org. They say they rate them as center, right? For independent research and community feedback. But there's no editorial review, no blind survey, no third-party analysis. So basically, and All Sides even says they have low confidence in this bias rating, right? Now, that there's no paywall, okay, sure, why not? It's a weak sauce rating. Now, this one from Free Republic. That's not what we want. That's off the subject. So let's get back to why we're talking about this morning. This from Breitbart. Okay, you could probably call Breitbart a mainstream outlet. And it would be reasonable to say that Breitbart is to the right of Fox News.
Yeah.
It's a different creature because generally when we're talking about the legacy media, we're talking about televised legacy media. Breitbart is more in competition with New York Times than it is with CNN. For format. So, Jesus Christ!
Unflattering picture, go!
So,
I miss when Milo wrote for Breitbart.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the good old days.
I just miss seeing Milo get up on the stage and just do what he does. My favorite, the big hyped college lecture. He walks up to the lectern and he sits there and he slowly puts on his glasses. He takes them off and polishes them and puts them back on. He says, "I've prepared a few notes for this evening." And he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out an iPad mini and he scrolls like he's taking it very seriously. He's okay. He takes a moment to review his notes. Then he leans into the microphone and he says, "Feminism is cancer. Thank you very much," and walks away. And that was the same speech with where Steven Crowder just lost his shit on the audience, and Christina Hoff Sommers was absolutely brilliant in that one. That's also the same speech where we got the Trigglypuff meme from. That all happened in one event. So, despite presenting itself to the public as the arbiter of truth and guarantor of factually accurate information, guarding users against fake news and misinformation, Facebook has admitted in court that its fact checks of information, frequently aimed at conservatives, are nothing more than statements of opinion. This is a much bigger deal than most people will understand. For Facebook to, because, okay, so what's happening here is John Stossel, the bombshell emerged from Facebook's court battle with John Stossel, who is suing the company for defamation over its decision to add fact check labels to the Libertarian pundits' videos about climate change. So what he's arguing is that by adding the fact check label to his videos and saying that those videos are false, that unless the truth condition, the truth value of that claim can be verified scientifically and correctly, then the claim is defamatory in nature. Facebook's defense against this argument is not these fact checks can be proved and are scientifically correct and are not defamation, because the truth is always a defense to defamation, right? That would have been the correct defense to use if it were not for the nefarious preamble to what Facebook has done. Instead, Facebook's affirmative defense, and this is important because this will affect statutory law, Facebook's affirmative defense is that the fact check is not a claim of fact. It is not an indictment of your truth condition. It is merely the opinion of a third party.
Yeah, so the truth is a lie, the lie is truth, freedom is slavery, slavery is freedom. I mean, you want to talk about just... On the one hand, yeah, this is a really, really, really big deal. But on the other hand, I mean, is anybody surprised? Like, at all? Because I'm not. I mean, it's been very, very obvious that once the social media companies started to crack down on misinformation, it all seemed to slide in a certain direction. Because this funny thing happened where conservatives, libertarians, right-leaning people in general realized that they had an equal-sized voice on these platforms. Like, Diamond and Silk are a fantastic example of this. Just two sassy right-wing black ladies that made humorous videos, and like literally in the space of a year went from nobody knows who they are to like they need to quit their jobs because they're making so much money making Diamond and Silk videos.
In the space of a year, they went from nobody knows who they are to they're testifying before Congress.
Yes, but the point in this context is...
But yeah.
So the big media companies come in, well, the big social media companies come in and say, gosh, we can't have that. We can't have Steven Crowders and Diamond and Silks and Razor Fists popping up all over the place. Right. So we're going to do things like shadow banning and demonetization and... Oh, okay, you're a big guy, and you worried me for a second there.
I don't know nothing about that.
Anyhow. So the fact that the truth is starting...
We have been shadow banned.
Yes.
And demonetized.
I know. I was there. Remember, I've been here since day one.
We've been removed.
I'm tracking, okay?
We've been flagged.
Yes. Anyhow,
we appreciate you guys for watching this show and sharing it with your friends, by the way.
Anyhow, like I said, this doesn't shock anybody, like, at all. And the fact that, Diamond and Silk, for example, were demonetized tells you everything you need to know. Look, if we're going to make this argument, because there's two things to it, okay? Like, let's say I accuse you of cheating on your wife, and that gets you fired. Not you, but like second person narrative device you, okay? But I accuse you of cheating on your wife, and that gets you fired, and you sue me. Well, if I turn around and go, well, look, I kind of have proof that you cheated on your wife, you then can no longer sue me for saying that you cheated on your wife, right? Like, that's kind of the point here.
That's right. It's hard to file a lawsuit when you can't find a body.
Look,
But your point is well taken. The truth is an affirmative defense against defamation.
exactly. That's where I was going with it. Like, and there's other things too. Like, there are positions, like you could work for a church, so it's important that you maintain a certain public image. And if
Yep.
things come out and somebody slanders your public image, defames your public image, and you lose your job, you have a lawsuit. Unless, of course, the things they're accusing you of are true. Like, if you're gonna accuse somebody of kitty diddling, you better be damn sure they're actually a kitty diddler. Otherwise, you could find yourself in civil court, and you probably belong there.
You mean You mean like the CNN staffer that was just arrested
Look,
by the FBI that apparently also has a huge problem with kitty diddling?
Yeah, look. Tomorrow is WTF CNN. We'll
Because WTF CNN, y'all got some problem.
right. But now let's just assume for a second that their whole thing about well, fact checkers are just it's just an opinion. It's not, okay. And yes, part of the point that Chris is making here is that Facebook's defense should be, well, hold on now. We put this fact check label on here because we believe we were in fact correcting the facts, right? And then boom, no problem, lawsuit's done,
Yeah.
right? Here we go. That's not what they did.
But the fact that the truth is the correct affirmative defense to the claim of defamation, and Facebook is not claiming that their defense is what we've said is the truth, that is intensely telling. Let me take just a moment. Lieutenant Adam Baum has joined us, a new viewer. Thanks for popping in. I hope you'll hit that subscribe button and join us for WTF CNN tomorrow. And if that LT is any indication, Mr. Space Force Coast, which, by the way, hua, I hope you'll join us on Friday for Firearms Friday, which is the most fun we ever have.
yes.
Except for that one where we sent Stacey Abrams an invoice for $5,000 for services rendered.
And then got our first hard strike. Like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
it's obviously a joke, guys. Go back and. But you know what? That episode's actually a good example of this whole concept. When we sent Stacey Abrams that invoice, like, this was obviously done in jest. Like, we were clearly trying to make a point about how
She still hasn't paid it, by the way.
we were clearly trying to make a point about how voter organizations work and how Stacey Abrams is a fraud and just a total shitburger and all that. And somehow we were accused of spreading voter misinformation when if you'd actually watched the episode, it would have been clear. Okay? Now,
And just to be clear, that Stacey Abrams is a fraud is not our opinion. That's the opinion of multiple law enforcement organizations that have investigated her for fraud several times in conjunction with several different organizations over the course of the last decade or so.
yeah, but
The word cereal comes to mind.
yeah, like Fruit Loops.
Roger.
Okay. All right.
And amphibian priapisms.
Cheerios. Amphibious priapisms almost does sound like a name for cereal. Like it would have like a green box with
God,
like
that's
a...
awful. And great big old frog dicks.
Well, no, it wouldn't be frog dicks. It'd just be a frog.
Battletoads!
It would all be suggestive. Okay. Stossel. Okay. Stossel's a part of a dying breed, okay? He is a libertarian, has always been a libertarian, somehow managed to work for 2020 for some time. I don't know how in the world he did it and kept his job and told the stories that he would tell.
Yeah, no shit.
Like, this is a true story, okay? If you grew up of a certain age, you looked forward to TGI Fridays, right? Because that's when, like, Urkel would come on, right? And if you were still up when all the, what my family referred to as the Urkel shows, that's also the block that played Family Matters, but it was the Urkel shows.
That's also the block that had dinosaurs.
For a time, yes. Not the mama. So, anyhow, if you stayed up, 2020 came on when TGIF was over. And I would actually watch TGIF. And so young me got exposed to John Stossel at that age.
Yep.
And Papa Sheepdog was rather proud of me when he came walking into the room and he was like, "Son, you're watching John Stossel?" Like, you know the meme where, like, he's wiping his eyes and be like, "I've done a good job as a parent. You're watching John Stossel."
I didn't quite have that moment with the Sergeant Major over it, but I do remember watching John.
Anyhow, Stossel...
Been a hot minute.
Anyhow, Stossel has been a libertarian, wears it on his sleeve. And he's a good example of the whole thing about how, like, if people will tell you what their bias is and try and prove why their bias is correct, they're probably a more authoritative source than somebody that pretends to be in the center or just the facts. Like, shit right up your nose with that, okay? Everybody has emotions. Everybody has opinions. You're better off knowing what they are so you can take what they say within that context, all right? However, what Stossel does do is a ton of research. And yes, he tries to put together entertaining content. And yes, he is trying to kind of be sarcastic. And anytime he has an opportunity to poke fun at government or the left in general, boy, he takes big swings and he swings for the fences. But his content is undergirded by fact. So the fact that somebody would come along and fact check him, there's a reason why he took that offensively. John Stossel has fact checkers. It's a thing. Oh dear.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Oh my. Anyhow. So, boy, just that one little sneeze threw me off. Nope, I'm good. So, nope, I'm thrown off. Oh no. Now we're googling things for.
You go ahead with what you were saying. Stossel fact checks. He knew his shit was right.
That's right. Stossel fact checks. He knew his shit was right. And Facebook's defense, that's like, well, third-party auditors, they're just giving you their opinion anyway. They're not correcting facts. Which means, did Facebook just accidentally admit that John Stossel's narrative on climate change is the facts? Because if that's the truth...
No, in fairness, all they admitted to is that their claims...
Their claims are opinions.
Their claims are opinions. If all they admitted to is that their claims are opinions, that does not concede that their opinions are false. What it does is it asserts that the opinion, because it is not a truth-conditioned claim of fact, is merely opinion, that it's protected speech under the First Amendment.
Yeah, but there's the whole. But I'm willing to make certain assumptions because they're not using the truth as a defense. Because that's what this revolves around.
Correct. They're not using.
Well, hey, look, we were telling the truth. We were operating in good faith. They're not using that as a defense, and they would have to believe the narrative about climate change in order to believe that the truth was a defense. Here's the other side of it, though.
Here's the thing that I needed to find. Okay, go ahead.
Here's the other side of it, though. If fact checkers are just third-party opinions, whatever, I mean, it goes back to that old question, who watches the Watchmen? Or in this case, who fact checks the fact checkers? Because one thing that guys like us have been saying for some time is like, man, you know, all this fact-checking bullshit always seems to happen in one particular direction. You see wild shit coming from the left, and it barely even registers. But
you mean like the idea that miniature black holes ate an airplane?
Yeah, Don Lemon. Man, you want to talk about the gift that keeps on giving. Especially if you're in the mood from Fromunda cheese. He'll give you plenty of that. Anyhow, but this is, look, I agree, this is a big deal. And it's funny because Stossel's probably one of the few people that they should not have done this to. Listen, guys, I have my facts in order, okay? Give me a break. Good grief. Lieutenant Atombaum says opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. Yeah, and they all stink. And I'm including mine. Like, the vast majority of us with an opinion, and good on you if you have an opinion, but the vast majority of us with an opinion, I mean, it's just what we think. It's just what we believe. In many cases, it's just what we feel. And look, that's fine, but be honest about it, okay? I think I accidentally backed into a point there. What's so
With your asshole?
Well, no. Never that.
Never that.
What's so frustrating about what's going on with Facebook and Twitter and all that is the fact that they will not be honest about what their opinions are, about where their biases lie. If Twitter would just come out, or Facebook, or YouTube, or whatever, just come out and say, look, you know what? It is what it is. We're leftists, and we hate the fact that the right came in and basically just took over our platforms. Turned out their content was far more engaging. Like, there was a time, y'all, where the right ruled Twitter, because the ability to make a concise argument in just a few sentences is not something that the left can do without lies or an appeal to emotion or anything like that. Like the Laffer curve, for example, just saying, look, if you want more tax revenue, you cut taxes. Like, that's it. That's the whole statement. It's factual. It's been proven.
Okay, so we have a troll. This is an American friendly stream or a traitor insurrection stream? Oh, never mind. I see the paraphernalia in the background. You guys deserve to rot in hell. That's adorable. Okay, so you're one that voted for the people that funded the actual insurrection, the BLM rioters that worked last year. You, my friend, should be executed under Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. Not an argument. Mere fact. Law. Have a nice day. Feel free to keep commenting in the chat. I won't address you again. So, on the bias point, and then we need to wrap this up because it's after 8 o'clock. Facebook's third-party fact-checking program, working with independent IFCN, that's the International Fact-Checking Network. International Fact-Checking Network. This is an organization that is funded by left-wing activists, hosted by hardcore left-wing colleges, and being international, well, do you know what the one truth condition of international activity that you can always be certain of is? Communism.
All right.
Socialism, communism, the international claim, once you get outside of the United States of America, there is no First Amendment. There is no protection to free speech. Freedom does not legitimately exist outside of the United States of America. And it exists less and less here. Let's be perfectly plain about that. So in order to even be considered as a fact checker for Facebook, first you have to go through these layers of verification by professional disinformation mechanisms. And I do mean disinformation, not misinformation, because what the fact checkers do, and this was part of the Candace Owens lawsuit, what the fact checkers do is they intentionally make claims of falsehood on claims that are politically conservative or conservatively controversial. And the end result, generally, and this was Candace Owens' problem, is that they put the fact check on your post and people click on the fact check. The fact checkers, among other things, among other nefarious activities, are essentially running a scam where they're hijacking traffic from the customers that the conservative is making a pitch to. right? So if I see that Candace Owens said Donald Trump is the greatest president of all time, and the Carter Foundation fact checks that as false, Jimmy Carter was the greatest president of all time, and I say that's ridiculous. How could you even pretend to make that claim? And I click on it because I want to see how you could possibly be so stupid to believe this. Oh shit, I just clicked on your thing. And that means the traffic was diverted from the content that I was actually interested in engaging in. Now, in fairness, I am interested to know how you can be that stupid. And so I wasn't
Brain
totally
damage?
uninterested in your
Poor parenting.
in your content.
A
Yeah.
lack of God in your life. There's a few options.
Probably drugs. Mostly drugs.
I don't know, man. I know some really smart people who've done a lot of drugs. They're still smart. I know dumb people who've done a lot of drugs.
I've known some really smart people who did a lot of drugs. And well, they were smart before they did all the drugs. Yeah, I've seen it. It goes bad. All right, that is all I've got this morning. I need to wrap it up so I can get out the door to my first contract, and we will see y'all tomorrow. You got anything to put a button on?
Yeah, come back for WTF CNN. It's between Chris Wallace and Chris Cuomo and the pedo, and man, there's
Yeah.
things to talk about.
Bad over there. Y'all be safe out there. We'll see you in the morning.